Good evening and welcome to City Council regular meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and at this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council. Do I hear an adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you. As people notice, we have two council members on Zoom. I think this is our first try at this kind of a section. So we have Councilmember Riddle and Councilmember Ferratelli on Zoom. So bear with me. I still can't quite figure out the yellow hand. I'm not that bright sometimes, so I will do my best. With that, we're going to start a few proclamations. I've asked actually Deputy Mayor French to meet the Juneteenth 2022 proclamation. Thank you, Tom.
It would be my pleasure, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, setting in motion the end of slavery in the United States. And whereas the end of the Civil War began with the surrender of General Lee at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, 1865, and ended with the final terms of surrender of the last Confederate general on June 2nd, 1865. And whereas this news reached Texas when Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston Bay with his troops. It was on June 19th, 1865, that he announced, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." And whereas celebration of the end of slavery reaching the furthest union state, which became known as Juneteenth, is one of the oldest public celebrations of the end of slavery in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth celebrations spread across many southern states and more with the movement of freed Texas slaves as they exercised their newfound freedoms in search of family and new lives. And whereas the first Juneteenth celebrations brought friends and families together, often on emancipated land, the first to be owned by former enslaved people, and included inspirational speakers, reading of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, food and stories from former enslaved people. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates the complete emancipation of Confederate slaves, and June 19th was declared Emancipation Day in Texas in 1980. And whereas on a larger scale, celebration of Juneteenth reminds each of us of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and the opportunity which are at the core of America. Now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Lake Forest Park do hereby proclaim June 19 as a day to celebrate Juneteenth 2022 in the City of Lake Forest Park.
Thank you, Tom. And with that, we're going to move on to Pride Month, and it's with great pleasure and kind of an honor to introduce Councilmember Goldman to read this. Thank you, Councilmember.
Yes, yeah, I'm delighted to, as I think I'm the first openly gay member of the City Council. Pride Month. Whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus, LGBTQ plus communities of the greater Puget Sound area are an integral part of the vibrant culture and climate of our area. And whereas the diverse LGBTQ plus communities continue to contribute to widespread academic, economic, artistic, and social spheres within and around our city. And whereas the month of June was designated Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which occurred in June of 1969, and are generally recognized as the catalyst of the LGBTQ plus rights movement. And whereas the LGBTQ plus communities of Puget Sound have thoughtfully organized numerous workshops, sporting events, receptions, festivals, concerts, plays, dances, and a host of other inspired activities to participate in during the celebration of Pride Month. And whereas the City of Lake Forest Park remains committed to protecting the civil rights of LGBTQ plus communities, as the power and purpose of this iconic event proves vital in our unified effort to forge a more open and just society. And whereas the active and involved lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus people and families make an indelible impact upon the quality of life in the Puget Sound, and Pride Month serves as a call to our collective consciousness to persist in the fight to eradicate prejudice and discrimination everywhere. Now, therefore, the mayor and city council of the city of Lake Forest Park proclaim June 2022 to be Pride Month in Lake Forest Park, and encourage all citizens to recognize the enduring efforts and ongoing contributions of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus communities to our city and to our country, signed this 9th day of June, 2022.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, we have one more, and I'll take care of this one. Actually, it's a proclamation honoring and thanking Lee Aalund, City of Lake Forest Park Administrative Services Manager. Whereas Lee Aalund is, we can clap now if they'd like to. Whereas Lee Aalund is completing her 14th year with the City of Lake Forest Park, where she has served since 2008. And whereas Lee Aalund is leaving a legacy of commitment and dedication to the City of Lake Forest Park, having served with 3 mayors, 3 city administrators, and numerous council members. And whereas during the past 14 years, the city has greatly benefited from Lee's expertise and leadership in human resources and the expert hiring of numerous employees that have benefited the city. And whereas since 2009, Lee has provided expertise in assisting the city in negotiating 4 police guild collective bargaining agreements, along with nine various memorandums of understanding, letters of understanding, and letters of agreement. And whereas since 2009, Lee has provided expertise in assisting the city in negotiating 4 Teamster collective bargaining agreements, along with the memorandum of understanding and letter of agreement. And whereas during the past 14 years, Lee has been instrumental in ensuring the city has been awarded the Wealth City Award every year. And whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, Lee has provided expert guidance and support to the entire leadership team in implementing the work from the home and to return to work plan. Now, therefore, the mayor and the city council of the city of Lake Forest Park do hereby thank and congratulate Lee Aalund, City of Lake Forest Park Administrator Service Manager, on a retirement from public service. And we wish her all the best for a very happy retirement. Signs this 9th day of June, 2022. So. So hold on. So this is for you. Yes, don't. Yes. And I would just like to say a couple quick things. Thank you, because everybody that I've hired in my since I've been mayor, it's all come through you. I've sat in her office many a times, or in mine, and she said, "Oh, this person's great." And I mean, thank you. We have some amazing people. And I can tell you, as you can look at me, that I participate in all the well fitness things. So a lot of the miles were by me. So you owe me that one too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet.
This is as close as I'm going to come to an Oscar acceptance speech, so I'll be brief. When this showed up, I just sat there and said, "Oh boy, I can't wait. I have to retire so I could speak at that podium." I'd like to thank so many people, but I must keep this very brief. First, Mayor Johnson. When it comes to motivating employees, you are the city's superpower. You are the kind of leader who made my job so much easier. All you do is walk through the city hall telling jokes and chatting with staff. You say, "Thank you for what you do, and you are doing a really good job." And the next day, the employees will say, "The mayor stopped by," and they'll tell me about it. It's like they've seen a rock star. It's very motivating, and it's so simple, and it's so sincere, and thank you for doing that. Second, City Administrator Hill. He's smart, he's engaged, he's thoughtful, he's encouraging. He's just plain fun to be around. He sets the tone for collegiality and respectful communication, teamwork, and trust. Thank you for being one of the best bosses I've had for 40 years. Sincerely. I want to thank especially my husband, Luke Ferguson. He is the rudder to my sailboat, keeping me on the right tack as I sail through rough seas at work. He's the one who sat next to me at the dinner table and listened to me. When I would come home and say, I can't do this, I can't do that. I can't apply for that job at the City of Lake Forest Park. I don't have any labor relations experience. He would always say, oh, sure, you can do it. He was always right. Thank you very much for your support. And finally, the leadership team of the City of Lake Forest Park, if I start talking about them, I'll really start getting emotional. We have the best group of people. They're talented, they're enthusiastic, they are committed. I just kind of marvel that the citizens sometimes think that we are bureaucrats, fat bureaucrats sitting in our offices, spending the city's money. I have never worked with a more dedicated and more hardworking group of employees. And the managers you have on this team are just extraordinary. And I just am so proud that I had the hand in hiring many of them. When they interviewed me for this job, they said, what is your least favorite part of human resources? And I said, recruiting. Because I don't like the randomness of it and I don't like the chance. You know, you put your ad out there and maybe this person will see it. I like to apply my skills and abilities to make a process better. And you can apply all your skills and abilities. And if that person happens to be on vacation that week and doesn't see your ad, you're out of luck. But I must say that we have been so fortunate in hiring some of the best people. And I have really enjoyed participating in that. I also want to mention our new municipal judge, Jennifer Grant. Again, and I thank you, the council, for being always there when I called and sent out an email and said, we're recruiting for such and such a position. Would you please join in that process? You were always there, always participating thoughtfully, and that helped our process tremendously. So please keep doing that with my successor. That means a lot to the human resource process. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So council, like usual, let's get some pictures with her. Chief, you got your phone?
Do we get to embarrass Lee just a
Yeah,
little
of
bit?
course. That's why we do this stuff.
If I may.
Yep, let's go down and get a picture with
First,
Lee.
okay.
Then we'll tell her how much we love her. I guess I'll get that out of order. If that's okay. Let's do a picture.
I've been in denial. I thought we could kind of somehow.
Hey Tracy, if you can hear me, look forward. There we go. Okay, good. 1, 2, 3. Just a couple there to make sure.
Deputy Mayor French.
So it is bittersweet that Lee is leaving us. I've known Lee for quite a while. The mayor and I joined the council at the same time. And I'll tell you a story about one of my first interactions with Lee at the end of my thoughts here. But first, I wanted to say, Lee, it has been such an enormous pleasure working with you through all the labor negotiations and various challenges that cities had to go through. I have found our conversations so educational. I've learned so much about labor relations and negotiations, and as well as general HR kinds of challenges. And so I thank you for that. Our sessions that we've had to do in private because of the law have been really quite meaningful to me because of your expertise. You've guided us through so many challenging times. And I'll just close with a really interesting story. So when I first was elected to the council, the mayor and I came up together, and it was a pretty rancorous political climate at that time. And I came up to City Hall and I wanted to meet some of the staff and get to know them a little better, and maybe calm the waters a little bit about their impressions of what had just happened during the election cycle. And I knocked on Lee's door and I sat, she invited me in. She looked a little surprised, first of all. And then I sat down, she invited me to sit down, and we chatted for about 20 minutes. And it was a wonderful conversation. And finally I said, gosh, I've taken up way too much of your time. This has been really fun. Thank you so much, Lee. And as she was walking me to the door, she said, wow, Tom, you're really not that bad. And after that, her door has always been open to all of us. And I thank you for all you've done for this community, Lee. When you talk about exemplary leadership within City Hall, you embody every bit of that.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Anybody else like to say a quick word? Anybody? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think my colleague, Tom, Deputy Mayor French has kind of said it all, but Lee, it's been an enormous pleasure to get to know you during my 6.5 years now here on the council. And I hope this won't be the end. Come back and visit and we'll have to get together. And but I just like to echo some words of Tom's. You managed to be not only the consummate professional, but also a completely genuine and enjoyable human being. And that's not an easy thing to do. And you've done it. So thank you very much for that. And I know you set a tremendous example for folks all through the City Hall. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody out in there in the Zoom land like to say anything? Yes, I'm just making sure I don't miss them. I know where you're at. Councilmember Bodie.
Lee, I've only known you 2.5 years, but I feel like I've known you for a very long time. Really have enjoyed your explanations, your advice, your counsel. I bonded with you because we're both lawyers. There's that too, so that must be why you're so good. But I was just, as you know, I was shocked to hear that you were actually retiring. And so I wish you the best. And I know you'll, leave us in a good position going forward, but we will truly, truly miss you. And, from our hearts. So good luck. Come and visit us. And if you do want to come back and not actually retire, let us know.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, real quick, I would like to say thank you, Lee, again. Actually, Lee's been my room where I get to go in and I get to go off a little bit once in a while. And she has a door that closes real easy, so I go in there and talk. But I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss giving you a bad time about your tennis game. And Luke, if she decided to not retire, your life would probably be a lot simpler in the future. But with that, I hope you guys have a great time. You're going to, or you're leaving to and stuff. And we're all going to miss you. But I am assured by Lee that the person that is taking over her we're really looking forward to working with. And so thank you again. And thank you. And yeah, it's a bummer. I better shut up because I'm going to get a little emotional. So, okay, with that, we're going to move on to some business. Thank you, Lee. At this time, we will move on to citizens' comments. Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up this evening?
No, Mr. Mayor. If anybody in the Zoom audience wants to comment, address the council, just use the raise hand function.
Okay, seeing no citizen comments, we'll close it at this time. Next, the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Consent calendar has been moved in second. Any discussion on the calendar? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Yeah, any nays? Great, thanks. Passes unanimously. Moving on to final confirmation, planning commissioner, commission interview and confirmation, position 3, term expires 2/28/25, and position 5, partial term to expire 2/28/23. I'll introduce you to both of these applicants. Really had a nice time interviewing both of them. Maddie was there and Steve, and it's always amazing me what kind of and how quality people would always get to sign up for this stuff. And it's a pleasure to have you all a city like this. So with that, I'm going to introduce, first up, I'm going to introduce Meredith LaBonte, and you're here, right, Meredith? Thank you. Come on up and say a few words about ourselves. And remember, I warned you how mean the council can be, so be ready. Okay, yeah. Yep. Turn on the mic. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Meredith LaBonte, and I have lived in Lake Forest Park for a little bit over a year, and I really have loved every moment of it. I love the trees and my neighbors and the lake and the Burt Gilman Trail. There's just so many wonderful things that I love about Lake Forest Park, and anything that I'm benefit from, I like to give back when I can or volunteer. And I am a homeschooling mom of 4, and I'm just sending my oldest has graduated, and I'm having a little bit more time on my hands. And so I volunteer for my boys' orchestra, and I just thought, I saw in the newsletter that this position was needed, and I kind of passed over it initially because I thought, I don't think I'm qualified or I wouldn't be good for this. And then I started thinking about it, and I thought, actually, I'm really curious about things. I like to research. I've done all kinds of co-op classes for my kids, and I enjoy learning new things. And I could get interested in sign regulation. And, you know, I printed off a map of Lake Forest Park and looked at all the zoning and became more familiar. I, you know, drove around the city and just looked at city center and the business district and, you know, just the different zoning. And so anyway, that's kind of where I am. I'm honored that you would consider me, and I have a lot to learn. I don't know about everything, and I'll have to kind of study as it comes up. But I'm willing to do that if that's something that I could serve the city by doing.
Questions? Yes, Councilmember Bodie.
Thank you very much for volunteering and applying for this position. I'm the council liaison to the Planning Commission. I saw you at the last meeting, and I commend you for stepping up and volunteering your time, and also for being willing to do that kind of background research, because I do think some of the issues coming up are going to, you know, require some study and evaluation. So my question for you is, when you're a planning commission member, you're both representing the community to the council and the mayor, but you're also representing the city to the rest of the community. So do you have any comments about how you would engage your fellow Lake Forest Park citizens to understand what the Planning Commission is doing?
Yeah, so one of the things, I mean, the big issue that I have thought about is the sign legislation. And, you know, one of the things I think that is a great part about Lake Forest Park is we are a small enough community where we really can interact with a lot. We could actually talk to every single business owner and say, you know, what kind of signs are effective to you? What kind of signs do you want? You know, let's make sure that our rules fit within, you know, what you have already found effective for advertising your business. And so I think that just the that would be kind of, I wouldn't mind just knocking on a door and saying, hi, I'm on the planning commission, and I would love to know about what you think is effective marketing for your, for your company, to make sure that we don't exclude things that are beneficial to you, but at the same time, we're kind of, community needs and not wanting to have things that are too big. So just, I think that we have a great opportunity as a city to be able to have those kind of dialogues because of our size.
Thank you.
I spent a half hour telling her how you guys were gonna beat her up. Don't make me look bad here, okay? God, Maddie was tougher on you than these guys, didn't she? So I got Councilmember Farrah-Tommy, then Councilmember Riddle.
And thank you, Ms. LaBonte, for volunteering to serve on this commission. One of the questions that always comes up is with all kinds of things with land usage, and just wanted to find out a little bit about, have you had any interactions with cities or other government agencies about land use, and how would you go about basically studying up on these kinds of things? I didn't mean it.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, there, okay, that's all right.
No,
I thought I got, I said something really
Sorry.
terrible. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you, council member. No, so I am, every topic that I come across will be brand new to me. The new agenda is to talk about the reasonable use exemptions, and so that's something brand new. I started, research. I didn't want to get too much research into it because I didn't know if I would, be on the commission, but I read some of the past reports to sort of familiarize myself with the process. So no, everything will be brand new, but I am willing to, put the time in to learn all of the lingo and to try to be, and that's another thing that I would love to see is talking about people who have already gone through the process and, what was effective, where were there barriers, where there didn't need to be barriers, that we could remove those, and where, we can talk to. So those are the kinds of things that I would think of to, I do not know everything ahead of time, but that would kind of, research, read some reports, talk to people who have already done it to see how we can streamline it, how we can make it better, but at the same time, preserve our tree canopy. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your willingness to learn. I'm in the same boat, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Riddle.
Yes, I don't have so much a question as just a recognition of taking this leap. My daughter's in an IB, International Baccalaureate School, and one of the traits that they encourage is risk taker, appropriate risk taker. And it's lovely to see that modeling. And as someone who joined Planning Commission when I had a 2-year-old, it's a wonderful experience to show that civic nature to your children. And so it just warms my heart to see more of that and the ability for folks to be able to come in and join and volunteer for city commission. So I look forward to your what you accomplish on this commission. Appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Councilmember Cassover.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And Meredith, thank you so much for being willing to commit the time, because you're talking about the research and it's time consuming, and we on the council know that because we have to do the same. So Meredith, one of the really important values here in the city of Lake Forest Park is our commitment to preserving our environment and to coexisting with our with all that makes Lake Forest Park so special, and preserving the ecology of our city. And I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your thoughts about environmental issues and ecology and even climate change, just so we know a little bit more about your thinking. Thank you.
Okay. Definitely I have been thinking, and I appreciate Lake Forest Park in its preservation of the tree canopy. And I think that it is a really important thing. And obviously that is something that that we as a city have put as a priority because we have rules about what you can. So again, I don't know everything, but I'm really, wanting to learn about some of our waterways that we need to protect and how we can do that. I think a great idea, and I think the mayor, when we were talking, I think that there could be things done to just get the community, not from rules, but just for education, having things like talking about the different types of trees and when they're, the size that they are going to be in protected, maybe getting some things on the website about, actually looking at each, like the Douglas fir, and having a picture of it when we decide that this one, this is the diameter that needs to be protected, and talking about the wildlife that live in it, and just kind of give, on one side we set rules, and on the other side, I think that we could just educate people about the unique trees that are in our area. And so, yes, I think that that's valuable. I hope I answered the question right. I'm on board for wanting to do that, and like the process that we have set up to protect the trees, and also, have obviously we all live here, so we want to do both.
Great, thank you very much.
So I want to do that. See no other questions. We want to do everything at one time tonight. We got two of them here. Council. Okay, so we'll do that. So why don't you take a seat for a minute, and then we'll bring up my next candidate.
Thank you.
At this time, okay, I'm going to bring, and she's been with us for quite a while this evening. I saw her come in at the last meeting. Welcome, Ashton. Tell us a little about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. My apologies for not being in person. I had every intention of doing that, but I got called out for a work obligation, so my apologies. Thank you so much for the time and for inviting me back. I had a great conversation last month with Maddie, Stephen, and Mayor Johnson, and really got to talk about this role and the value that I feel that I could bring to it. A little bit about myself. I have lived in Lake Forest Park my whole life, so 33 years, and I take that back. I had a 1-year short stint on Kitten Whisker Lane right by the Jack in the Box in Kenmore. So other than that, I've been there my whole life, and I absolutely love it. And now my husband and I, we have our home right in Horizon View, and we double down. We built our home there. We have our kids. This is truly where our roots are. And I appreciated the comments from you, council member, about you joined when you had a 2-year-old. Well, I have a 2-year-old and I have a 3-year-old, and it's a crazy time, but I was afforded such a wonderful opportunity that I didn't quite realize until maybe my early 20s, just how beautiful of a city that we have, and the people that live there just truly care for it. And traveling for work early in my career, I had the opportunity to see what other cities are like, and different communities, and there really is like City Lake Forest Park is my home, and I would love to serve in that capacity. I think that I bring a unique voice, which is part of the reason why I responded to that article, simply because I have a lot of other parents that are friends, and have really great opinions and ideas within how they could serve the city. But just being a parent with young kids, it's very hard to do that. And even engaging by way of city council meetings, there's just a lot of voices that might not be heard. And I feel like that's a role that I would really like to serve in. Additionally, since COVID had hit, my work from downtown Seattle transitioned to home, and I live next door to Horizon View Park. And so I have been truthfully a fixture at that park, sometimes 1 to 3 walks a day, taking work calls, and I've had the opportunity to really engage with some amazing people that live in our city that, again, maybe they don't have access by way of social media, or they don't personally come to the city council meetings, but they have been with the city for many years. And I love to hear what they have to say. And whether I agree or don't agree, I appreciate people that share their opinion, and I love to learn more about that. And I think in this role, I can take that unique opportunity that I have and serve the city and serve this board.
Thank you. Before I ask this question, I need a little help from you. Can you lean back a little bit from your mic? We have a little thing. I just want to see if that helps. We've had a situation with other people on Zoom. I'm trying to figure some stuff out for Matt right now, probably. With that, do I have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Bodie.
Thank you very much, Ashton. I'm very impressed that you're willing to make time with a 2 and a 3-year-old, because honestly, I don't think I could have done it in that situation. So I'm very impressed. And I am very pleased and impressed by your deep community roots. I think that's really great to have, both a younger family and someone who's been here their whole life, basically coming into the Planning Commission. So thank you so much for that. My question for you is, you've seen a lot of change, of course, in your lifetime in Lake Forest Park, and the pressures we always face are the balance between growth and development and conservation and kind of keeping our community character. So do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share with us?
Certainly, good question. So again, growing up, I've seen it all. I got dresses at the LaBonte, that's now a Ross now. Some of you maybe remember that name, LaBonte. I went to City Lake Forest Park. I went to LFP Elementary. I guess from that perspective, talking about the city council and the police station and Third Place Books and the parks, I've seen positive change that I love. But what I love more is the fact that the city of Lake Forest Park is what it was 33 years ago. There's still a deep desire to preserve the environment, to keep the lush beauty that is there, to keep the safety there, but continually grow and evolve. And I think another component that really drove me to wanting to join this board is we're at an inflection point. I feel like that there's a lot of new folks that are coming to Lake Forest Park, especially people that are right out of the city, and this is just such a desirable area. And the more younger families that I see coming in, it's there's opportunities to grow, and I feel like being a voice and hearing that is something that's of great opportunity. But to more address your question, I have seen a lot of change, but I think that the core tenets of what the city is and what we believe has been throughout, and I think that that's a testament to the leadership here. And I would love to be a part of that and continue that, because that's something that I was afforded, and I think that's a legacy that I'd love to leave for my kids as well.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. Ashton, I have to say that I think my daughter has attended, a dozen plus planning commission meetings. So we're welcoming around here and flexible. At least we were back then. I hope we are still. So thank you for committing the amount of time and energy it takes, and to balance that with your work life, other balance. So I just wanted to thank you for making that leap and for joining applying for the Planning Commission. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Thank you very much. And Ashton, I just got to say that I'm very impressed with everything that you've said so far this evening. And I just really am appreciative of the fact that you're willing to, again, give of your time for this important role. The Planning Commission is really, in many ways, the second most important group, as it were, for the future of Lake Forest Park, with the council. There's a tremendous amount of work that happens at the Planning Commission that really determines what the city will be in the future. And I'm so excited that both you and the other lady are applying to join, because you represent new generations that I think the city really needs to hear from. So thank you very much, and good luck to you, and good luck to those babies of yours too. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. See none. Would anybody like to move our two applicants?
I'll be happy to.
Second.
It's been moved in the second.
Yep. Do you need me to say something?
Yeah, say what it would like. Actually, yeah, I want you to introduce them formally.
Yes, I'm just getting back to the language here. All right. So I would like to move the final confirmation of Meredith LaBonte and Ashton Alvarez McCartney to join our Planning Commission.
Now we'll second. Somebody?
Second. Okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So I'm moving second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Just one really quick one. So there's two positions with two different end dates. Has it been decided who would have which position? Do we need to officially declare that?
I think it says, well, I guess it doesn't really confirm that. Steve, you have any input or who we? Yeah, I be honest.
Haven't done this yet. So it doesn't really matter. I think that whoever, I believe that Jim Beret, we would be that was the position that came open second. So I guess I would just, recommend we do it in order, or just leave it to city administrator to make that decision, possibly, because it's, either way, they both can be extended 2 full terms, as I think there's partial terms there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're not. Jim wasn't on very long, so yeah. So there's not the big difference there. But I understand, Larry. Thank you. But I think we'll just go with the way it is. Okay. Okay, it's been moving second. No other discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Pass unanimously. Thank you very much. For you on Zoom, you can go back to being Zoom, whatever you do there. And thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. I kind of laughed when you said you only have 3 kids left at home. I'm like, oh yeah, great. Good luck with that.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a real quick word. I'd just like to say how proud of him and the council. I'm actually proud of myself a little bit, and Tom, for what we've accomplished. 11 years ago when we came on this council, there was not a lot of diversity, and Larry, thank you. You are probably the first openly gay council member we've ever had. We've had a lot more women. Tracy, thank you. We've really changed the look of this city on every aspect, on the council, on all the commissions and the boards. And I will tell you, that was a classic example, kind of why I went that way. We have somebody brand new, 1 year in the city, has a whole different view of somebody who's lived here their whole life. And it's a great way to go. And like I say, the city is getting younger, and I admire them, because I did not run for office until my kids were almost out of the house. And so, and that's I believe that's not a bad thing. You never listened, did you, Tom? Okay, with that, we will move on to ordinance and resolution for action. Resolution 1847, city recognition of Juneteenth holiday. City Administrator Hill. Oh, I'm glad somebody used that button.
We've got it. We're going to use it. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a little background. May 13th, 2021, Governor Inslee signed into law House Bill 1016. making June 19 a holiday for state workers starting this year. And then on June 17th, 2021, President Biden signed a bill establishing Juneteenth as a federal holiday. The resolution before you tonight would establish Juneteenth as a paid holiday for the employees of Lake Forest Park by either creating an additional paid holiday or substituting one of the two floating holidays for Juneteenth. The floating holiday or personal holiday can be used to celebrate holidays the city does not recognize or for any other personal reason. For holidays recognized by date, if it falls on a Saturday, the city recognizes it and closes on Friday before. If it's on a Sunday, we recognize that and close on the Monday after. Attached is a resolution that would amend the 2018 employee handbook. This is version 1.5, which is most current, to recognize Juneteenth as a city recognized holiday. As I said before, either creating a new holiday or substituting one of the floating holidays. The fiscal impacts, obviously, if you're creating a new holiday, is that one lost day of productivity. And to spell this out, we would have 6 police officers on work during that holiday that would be paid at 1.5 times their base rate, which works out to roughly $24 per officer per hour. And then in addition to that, we'd have a public works employee who's on standby and for the holiday would receive 1.5 times the regular 2-hour standby pay. So that'd be go from $50 to $75 per standby for that one day. And for 2022 only, because we were so late to the game and passports are very important to people, we would have one agent here working in regular rate for 5 hours that day to handle existing appointments. Any emergency call out for that day would result in and for any holiday, 3 hours of compensation at the rate of 2 times the employee's regular rate for police and 1.5 times for a public works worker. And then the one policy implication would be related to if this action was taken such that we take one of the floating holidays to put this holiday in place. That is something that would need to be bargained with both bargaining units. Currently, the guild contract is closed, and so we would need to work with them to see if they would accept that. If they did not, there would be some disparity between the guild and the employees. And the current contract language that we've been negotiating with the Teamsters just recognizes that whatever the other employees get, they get as well. So I stand for questions and Lee is here to back me up.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Cassover.
Thank you very much. So the risk of doing a little math on TV, as they say here, I have the handy calculator. So it looks like, the additional cost for police, if I'm 6 officers at an additional $24 times 8, is it
10.
8 or 9 or 10?
10
What's
hours.
a shift?
12-hour shifts.
12.
We
All
both-
right, I have to do a bit more
I got it
math.
wrong too. I knew this last week, sorry.
So, I mean, so we're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars here. We're talking about a couple of $3,000, I think, in terms of additional cost. And, to cover the overtime. And I'm not so concerned about that. I'm always a little concerned about the fact that lost productivity usually means everybody has to work a little harder during the other periods of time. So I'm inclined to be favorable to this. So I just wanted to just make that point, that statement, that I don't see this costing the city a tremendous amount of money. So seems reasonable to me.
Anybody on Tracy, Semra? Anybody have any other questions for Phil? Seeing none, would anybody like to move resolution 1847? Oh, Tracy, now your hand's up. Okay, yes, Tracy.
Well, I want to speak. I wanted to speak in favor of it, and I just wanted to confirm that what we would be voting on is one of the two options, or just literally creating a new holiday.
Correct. So there's two options attached to the resolution. In my packet, it begins on page 198. That first attachment would just add June 19th as the Juneteenth holiday. And then the second would do it by taking away one of the floating holidays. So in the motion, if whoever makes a motion could just indicate that it's either creating a new holiday or substituting, then we will work to put the correct attachment with the ordinance before it's codified.
Okay. Deputy Mayor French.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to speak in support of this. I think the administration has presented that it is not a substantive fiscal challenge for us. It is also, I think, in a position, we're in a position to be really equal with our other cities that have done a similar process to recognize this holiday. And it is an important holiday. And I think it's to celebrate it with an additional paid holiday makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of creating a holiday to recognize Juneteenth. I would be in favor of using one of the existing floating holidays. I think that we want to represent to our citizens the importance of recognizing this date. But I also think that we need to be fiscally responsible and send a message to our citizens that we always are. I think all of us would like to work fewer days. And so I don't think that we should create an image that the city workers are working less than those that don't work for the city.
Okay, point. Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. I feel somewhat the opposite. I feel like trying to utilize the floating holiday would take more time and therefore money from the city to be able to renegotiate. I also feel that we shouldn't penalize someone for a new holiday being provided at the federal level. So I'm more in favor of a resolution that would add the federal holiday. And I would be in favor of moving that resolution if there are no other comments or questions.
Yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Yes, thank you. And I'll echo what Councilmember Riddle said, that, you know, trying to balance the financial aspect that, and with Councilmember Cassover's live TV math, that if it's about $2,000 to $3,000 to just add it as a brand new holiday, that is not an enormous amount of money compared to the amount of labor that would be involved in negotiating with the unions and the guild. So it seems to me that since we're not talking about huge amounts of money, and since the holiday is coming up in just over a week's time, I'd be in favor of taking the option of just making it a brand new holiday and maintaining the current 2 floating holidays.
Yes, Councilmember Bodie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak in favor of this being an actual holiday as well, for the reasons my colleagues have mentioned, but also because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it is, it puts us together with other jurisdictions and the state, and it's an important holiday to recognize. I do think the importance given the social situations and social justice issues we've been seeing in the last few years, it is the right policy choice, I think. So I just want to speak in favor of it with that additional perspective.
Okay, somebody's gonna have to come up with whatever your resolution is so we can move on.
I would like to move that resolution, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Believe it's resolution number 1847, a resolution of the City Council of Lake Forest Park declaring Juneteenth, June 19th, a city holiday in remembrance of the day African American slaves learned of their freedom.
Second.
So, point of order.
Yes.
Are we going to set aside the 3-touch rule? Because we are going to recognize a new holiday that does have a fiscal impact to our citizens and does say that it's okay to create a new holiday. While I recognize that it does not have a
a lot of cost impact, we can always make that argument that it does not have a lot of cost impact if we just work fewer days of the year, because we will make it up at some other time. So point of order is, are we going to set aside the 3-touch rule?
I would like to just say, the reason we're probably doing this and the 3-touch rule would go by the wayside is because it's going to happen here in a few days, right? Juneteenth is when. Is there any way we can just make a decision on this year only, then bring it back and do the 3 touches and work through this a little more? Because like we said, we have to do union negotiating, guild negotiations. I don't know if we could do this year and then bring it back and make it a more permanent idea. It's up to you guys. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I'm willing to make a motion to set aside the 3-touch.
Okay.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved second.
And my reasoning is that the holiday is fast approaching and the union negotiations would delay having the holiday in effect for this
Oh, yeah.
year.
So, okay, council, it's up to you to which way you'd like to go. So you've been overruled. Yeah, it's moved in second. So we can go, all those in favor of the.
Point of order, I'd like
Yes,
to make
go
a
ahead.
comment. I think though that one of the things that we want to do, I recognize that it's coming up early, but early or not having enough time to consider it shouldn't be the reason why that we're moving forward to this. Because I think we have a responsibility to our citizens to give them the opportunity to comment on this.
Okay, Councilmember Riddle and then Councilmember Furatami.
Thank you. I agree that if we had more time, we would go through the full process. And I feel that because it was a federal holiday and it's not one that we've simply created on our own, but we're responding to a holiday that others will get, that doing this year in this way is acceptable. I agree with the mayor that perhaps we might want to do a more deep dive before next June if we determine we want to do that. So I feel this is appropriate for this year and this year only at this point.
Councilmember Furatami.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I second what Councilmember Riddle said. As a beneficiary of the federal holiday, I'm in the state holiday. I think this is a really important day to recognize, and I understand Councilmember Lebo's concerns, and whether we choose to go with a conversion or creating a new holiday, it would still delay it past the date that it would be effective this year. And yeah, I don't see any reason to do that. And again, what the council has done, the council can undo as well. So I'm in favor of moving on this today.
Councilmember Cassover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a motion on the floor to set aside the 3-touch rule for a motion that is also on the floor. And I think we need to follow the proper procedure here. So the debate that we are having right now is not focused on the motion on the floor, which is should we set aside the 3-touch rule?
That is correct.
So I would like to call a close to the discussion on the 3-touch rule and take a vote.
Okay.
And somebody can challenge that, but that's what I think is the next right step.
Okay. So catch me up here. Does that one have to be second? Call the question. So all those in favor of spending the setting aside, that's easier for me to say, the 3-touch rule, please say aye.
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 Any nays?
Nay.
No. So that passed 6-1. Okay, and then now we're going to move on to the main motion, which could you read that again, Semra?
And it's on the
Definitely.
floor.
The motion that's currently on the floor is Resolution 1847, a resolution of the City Council of Lake Forest Park declaring Juneteenth, June 19th, a city holiday in remembrance of the day African-American slaves learned of their freedom.
Thank you. That's already been moved and seconded. We were during the discussion. Any other discussion? Yes, Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. So just to clarify, so if we pass this motion and recognize this as a holiday, is it a new holiday in addition to the holidays that we have, including the floating holidays, or is this in lieu of an existing
floating holiday, which are the two options that I understand. So it's not clear to me which of the two options, or is that even part of this motion?
I would request that we add, if it's a new holiday, just that language, recognizing it as a new holiday. And subsequently, if it was not, that recognizing it as a holiday, and I don't know, maybe Kim can help me, but eliminating one floating holiday. How's that sound?
Go ahead.
I would agree that the motion could be clarified so that it's recognizing Juneteenth as an additional holiday for city employees. Because I understand her motion being not taking away one of the floating holidays.
Is correct. That was the intent of the motion.
So on point, then we could simply add in section 1 in recognition of Juneteenth as an additional city holiday.
Mhm.
With the addition of the word, additional to the makers and the seconders of the motion.
I would second that amendment.
Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded, and we're in discussion, and that's been moved and second to add a new holiday, if I'm correct there. Okay, additional holiday. Do I see any other questions or discussion on this? So, yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Yeah, I'd also like to clarify, if we pass this motion, are we adding Juneteenth just for 2022 and then we have to come back to it next year? Or are we adding it sort of in perpetuity unless we come back to it?
As I understand it, since it's adding it to the employee handbook manual, it would be in perpetuity. It wouldn't be limited to a single year, as I understand it. Administrator Hill, is that how you read it?
That's how I was understanding the motion. So we would either need to clarify, or as was stated earlier, I think it was Councilmember Furutani, you can always revisit that in the future and make changes.
Okay. So with that clarification.
Vote on the amendment.
Yep. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? And the same passes 7-0. Thank you, council. I guess that's it, Phil.
Mayor, did we need? I
Oh,
think
the
that was
amendment.
amendment.
Boy,
Now
you
we
guys
need-
are hard. Okay, so now we're gonna vote on the motion.
The motion. Thank you.
You want to read the motion again, just so they know what they're voting on?
Yes.
Because
It is-
I would like to know.
Resolution 1847, a resolution of the City Council of Lake Forest Park declaring June 19th a city holiday in remembrance of the day African-American slaves learned of their freedom, with the amendment to Section 1 in recognition of Juneteenth as an additional city holiday.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, that passed unanimously too. All right. So I'm going to go on my pipe a little bit. This is where you find the biggest disconnect to the real world that I live in and the government world that governments live in. This is very hard on small businesses. We don't get the choice. We can't shut down. I can't shut down every time a new holiday comes up, and it makes it a little harder on my employees when they go to work and there's nobody in traffic because, whatever state and federal employees have are schools and banks, but a lot of us in the world don't get that luxury. So that's why I didn't even read the Juneteenth. I have nothing against the holiday. I have a little bit of bitterness on the fact that people that really make their money in small business and different places can't offer to have their employees have all these time off because we just wouldn't survive. So that's just me being a small businessman. And I think all other small businessmen would understand exactly what I'm talking about. So congratulations. I'm glad we've got it and the city has another holiday and good. So I'll see you there in my door and oil change because you guys have the day off. So do something with it. Get your car fixed. Okay. With that, we're going to move on. So to ordinance and resolution for council. This is Resolution 1848 authorizing the mayor to sign American Rescue Plan Act ARPA grant agreement between the city and Two Trading Tigers LLC. City Mr. Hill.
Mr. Hill, I think you need to adjust that again, just so we can see it.
I'll make it go down one.
They
and
go
leave.
down. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And speaking of small business, so this is just informational tonight, and I've got a policy question here for you, but Two Trading Tigers LLC, which is a consignment shop here in the town center on the upper portion, has applied to the city for ARPA funds to reimburse for lost revenue up to $52,000 caused by impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. The proposed contract is structured as the others have been as a reimbursement grant, including a not to exceed amount and a requirement for all backup documentation, which in this case is the 1040 Schedule C profit or loss for businesses. I already have those on file, which then is reviewed and approved by the city finance department prior to funds being dispersed. As you will remember, when we did the lost revenue calculations and accepted those dollars, we set aside $300,000 in ARPA funds that stay in the federal pot because we cannot give general fund dollars to local businesses. That would be a gift of public funds. So we kept those under the auspices of ARPA so we can continue to disperse those funds. The policy question tonight is, we have $300,000. We have one request of $52,000. So if this were to hold, we could do about 6 businesses that we could help as a city, and then we would be done. So the question is, does the city council want to set a ceiling on how much we will reimburse to small businesses to make the dollars go further, or look at this as a first come, first serve? When the dollars are gone, we're done. And so that's really the big question tonight. You don't have to answer it tonight. I can give you the 2 options. I can give you some options when this comes back in 2 weeks to make a motion, that would approve this contract with an upper limit of, whatever dollar amount was selected by the council. And it could be anything. I can tell you, we've done one business so far, and I believe that was for glacial cryotherapy. They had requested about $50,000. I think what they were able to justify was slightly less than that, but that was what we awarded them. The only other small business, and we've done Lake Forest Park Bar and Grill, which was much smaller amount that they requested. So, it's difficult to make that decision of, you have a small business, we've looked at the financials. They have had a pretty serious impact from COVID. Do they need all of it to say Sullivan, would a portion work? I don't know the questions to that, the answer to that question. So if you have some initial thoughts, I'll take those tonight if you want to mull it over. But we can leave that dollar amount open if you want to set it at 20 or 30,000 in the future.
Yes, Councilmember Cassover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have you, thank you very much, Administrator Hill, for this information. Do you have you had any communication with any other businesses in Lake Forest Park about who have interest in applying for these funds?
The only other business I know is out there is the local 104. They're looking at doing some improvements and additions to their outdoor dining, which obviously would be a significant expense. And I don't think we would, that could eat up a lot of it. So I think we need to find the right balance for what we're giving out. And it may be lesser than we've done in the past, but we had to make that commitment to Treasury, a month or so ago. And so having all those unknowns, it might be wiser to set that limit. But the danger is, do you help somebody stay in business, or do you just, and we don't know either way, right? We don't know if we're keeping them in business or just taking them further along.
Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you.
Well, City Administrator, if we were to award a lower amount and in the end not have reached our cap, is it acceptable for businesses to reapply, or is this is just a one shot for them?
No, they could reapply. We could also look at the possibility of going back and reallocating, because we had already determined that they qualified for that dollar amount. We have to commit by December 31st, 2024, and then have everything spent out by December 31st, 2026. So there's time. So you could allocate, and if there were dollars left over in a year, substantial dollars, you could go back and revisit previous businesses.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. City Administrator Hill, this begs the question though, if we've allocated dollars, but have we established a policy for how we're spending the dollars other than the allocation of the dollars? And I don't speak just to this tranche, but to the entire tranche that we've received.
So the policy that we established was to help small businesses per the ARPA guidance and rules that had suffered from the pandemic, whether that be for PPE, be lost revenues, but we never set a dollar amount policy. We've been following the regulations set forth in the legislation from the federal government of what qualifies, but we have not set a dollar amount in policy.
Is there something compelling that's changed that would, that we see a need to set a dollar or a policy?
I think the only thing that has changed is the federal government made us, set dollar amounts, right? We had to claim lost revenue. And if we claim too much, then we don't leave enough in this pot that we can help small businesses. So this is only a policy decision for you as the legislative body. I don't see any reason to change it, but I wanted to present it as an option to you and something for consideration of what is the policy of the council at this point. We have limited funds where we can help small businesses. And so, of course, my computer was asleep. So I just want to make sure that as we're working with small businesses, that we're meeting what you want as a policy body of helping as many businesses as possible, or helping those that have come to us at the maximum dollar amount that they qualify to, possibly keep them in business. So it's just presented to you as options.
Councilmember Farahami.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administrator Hill, thank you for giving us these options. I guess my question is echoing Councilmember Lebo. Is it the case that when we did the glacial cryotherapy, similar kind of resolution, the thing that's changed is that the Fed set these new potential dollar amount rules, or is this a different tranche of money? I'm trying to understand why this is different than the glacial cryotherapy.
Yeah, so at that time, we hadn't, the rules changed. So we had an interim final rule, and then we have I guess a final rule that set up. And during the interim final rule, there was quite a lot of detail that the city had to go into to try and calculate and justify lost revenues. Everybody kind of pushed back about that across the nation at the National League of Cities to say that that's too difficult, that's too onerous, especially, for just about any size of jurisdiction. And so the federal government set that you can take, regardless of how much you received from the federal government and ARPA funds, you can take up to $10 million as lost revenue. Supposedly no questions asked. We're still documenting everything because we fear that that could change in the future. But by setting that amount, that kind of frees up the money supposedly better for the city. We have some capital improvement projects that we could do with that, and they might not have to hit the same thresholds they did under the interim draft rule. But we had to set aside a certain dollar amount for small businesses, because if we took everything as lost revenue and rolled it into general fund, now we cannot give small businesses any dollars.
Can I just ask one thing? I know that's your guys' thing. How long do they have to apply for this? Is there an end date to that?
Well, yeah, we have to do it before the end of 2024. We have to allocate the dollars.
Okay,
before the end
so
of 2024.
small businesses in this city have another 2.5 years to figure it out. Or 2 years. But my point to the council is, I think having some kind of a limit's not a bad idea, because I know for what's going on in this is that a lot of these small businesses just don't have the wherewithal or the time to actually do all the paperwork to prove the amount of money they're getting. So I would hate to see the city dole out all the money just to say we did, and then a business comes along and says, hey, I finally got this figured out, and we didn't have anything left for them. the paperwork that this small business has to do to be approved for this type of a situation is immense. You know, I had to have, you just need, you can't just sit down on a piece of paper and your calculator and figure this out. So I think it'd be a kind of a good idea to leave some, because some businesses might be, because we have a lot more than 3 businesses in the city. So I think leaving some money for just in case isn't a bad idea. And if you have to go back to give more, you can, but I wouldn't spend it all at once, as I guess I'd say. So thanks for just listening. Deputy Mayor French.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment on what Mr. Hill was saying about the final rule. It has changed a lot, and I believe now there was an interpretation of the final rule, and then there was like, I think there's cliff notes of the final rule as well, if anybody's interested in reading them. But I'm joking, but it has evolved so much, but in a better way, in my opinion. But I agree with Mr. Hill that making sure that we stay very stringently within, you know, sort of the middle road of the documentation, everything else, even though they've relaxed it substantively, makes a whole lot of sense. And I agree with the mayor about the idea of, since we do have a bit of time, that we can kind of parse this out over a period of time. And it is difficult because we do not know whether the decision we make for an individual business's request is going to be a make or break kind of situation, or whether it's going to help them. And I think also there's some uncertainty coming down the pike here too, that we might be considering making sure that we don't, that we do leave some leftover for some additional businesses to, as you were saying, Mayor, to navigate through some of the difficult things you have to do, and it's still difficult, even though they've relaxed the rules.
Councilmember Goldman.
Yeah, so I'm probably not going to be very helpful because I'm genuinely torn on this one. And it's kind of for the reasons you said, that if we set a cap and then a business comes to us and says, you know, I need $150,000 or we're going to go bankrupt, then we'd have to say, we can't give you that much. We can give you a third of what you're asking for. But I also very much appreciate what Mayor Johnson said, which is that there's a lot of paperwork. And if we spend all $300,000 in the next 3 months, there might be some other businesses that only need 10 or 20,000, but they didn't realize it until they were doing their books for the year. And by the time that they finally realized it, it's too late. And it's a tough one. Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm not really sure. I can see both sides of this one. And yeah, I know you're looking for policy guidance and I don't have any for you, so sorry.
Yes, sorry, I'm thinking too. Councilmember Lebo, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Just so I understand, are we talking only of the $300,000 that we've allocated for small businesses, or is there more than that?
No, it's $300,000.
So this discussion is about $300,000. And if we pass this motion for the 50 some odd thousand dollars, does that mean that there's only $250,000 left?
Correct.
And we've spent how much already on small businesses? I don't mean to say we spent. How much money have we
given so
granted?
far? It's under $100,000.
Are there any businesses in Lake Forest Park that are not aware of this program?
I would be surprised if they're not aware of it. I've had a few reach out to me, decide the paperwork was not worth it. I've had others that I send continual information to, requesting more information, and they just kind of drop off. So I think that goes to the mayor's point. There are businesses out there that find this difficult. The local 104 has a long process with the planning department and permits and things like that. And I think just for them, we're not going to pay for the whole thing. So, can they get all the loans they need to effectuate what they're trying to accomplish? We've reached out, we've done mailers, we've put it in the newsletter. The mayor has walked several businesses personally. So to your point, I don't know that there's a whole lot of pent up demand. And I think that I would say I'm in the exact same position as Councilmember Goldman. It's like, it's torn, but this is just, I don't want to make that decision. this is a policy level decision, and I want to make sure that the council as a whole is comfortable with whatever direction we go, and then we will carry that out. So that's why the question is posed tonight.
Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. As far as policy direction, would this be, how would we document this new policy? Once we have a direction, if we can agree on a direction? Is it a new resolution, or is it just?
I would think we could contain it in the resolution that would come back, but I'll let the city
It
attorney.
would just loop into 1848?
Is 18, I'm sorry, I don't have the number in front of me. Is if 1848 is the grant to Trading Tigers, I guess my preference would be to have it be separate just for tracking purposes for the clerk's office. But, you know, if that's not needed, we wouldn't have to, but it's pretty easy just to put it in another resolution for you.
I think I agree with you on that. I think holding it as a separate resolution would be easier to track and later. I'm torn as well, but I think given that people can reapply or come back, I think that leans me more towards limits, but they can reapply later. It's kind of where I'm leaning.
You know, I know your decision, this is your thing, but I just kind of giving you what I know, a small businessman. You know, John, and your thing, yeah, a lot of people, yeah, we have a lot more business, and a lot of them have made decisions, but I can tell you in my own personal world, the tsunami didn't hit me till the last 6 months of last year. So the first 2 years of COVID, I seemed to do okay. Then all the different things where you couldn't find employees because nobody wanted to work. I had an employee that tore his shoulder, but he couldn't get the surgery because COVID kept shutting down everything. So I don't know. That's just another reason. Maybe you leave a little out there because the tsunami might just now be hitting some of these people that fared okay and then they didn't. So I'm just speaking from my small business heart that knows that you just don't know. So thank you. Councilmember Farahani, your hand's up again.
I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to speak first. Is it good? Okay, great. All right, so Mike, and to add on to Councilmember Riddle's comment, I'm leaning towards having limits, but like Councilmember Goldman, I have no idea what those limits ought to be. The issue is, you know, as Administrator Hill said, there's very little pent-up demand, or he thinks there's not that much pent-up demand for these funds. So the question is, if we set a limit of say 50,000, and as Administrator Hill said, that would be 6 businesses, is that good? You know, using Councilmember Goldman's $150,000, the business needs this much money example. So that's what I'm really needing guidance on is what do we expect the number of businesses to request funds in the next 2 years to be like?
And I have no way to answer that question. You know, the largest requests that we've had to date were our providers, our community partners. They were the hardest hit. You saw increases in services for mental health, et cetera, that went up extraordinarily during the pandemic. They had the greatest losses. They had programs that they couldn't spool back up. So, I mean, we haven't seen any businesses come in and ask for $100,000. You know, you could, at 50,000, you help 6 businesses. At 30,000, you help 10 businesses. You know, it's just kind of and I don't mean to make this more difficult. I just didn't want to get out ahead of the council and all of a sudden we're out of money. You know, I felt this was an important discussion to have at this point in time because it is, you know, it's our first application after the final rule and just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I know it's difficult. I don't know what I would do in your shoes either. I'm torn. So
I'll go with Councilmember Cassover, then Deputy Mayor French.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Administrator Hill, it seems to me that you have a little bit more information than we do on this one. And that is because you've been in communication with the businesses that have approached you but backed off because once they saw the paperwork, they weren't sure they could manage it. And so I feel that I can't make any kind of policy decision without that information. And But yet that information may be somewhat delicate in that, maybe that's not something that should just be public. So I really don't quite know what to do. Lake Forest Park's not a very big place and we don't have a lot of businesses here. We on the council who live here day in, day out, know most of them because we are in and out of them. So I think that it would just be a lot easier for us to make a decision if we kind of knew who'd backed off, and we made in our own minds, the very large businesses in the mall, the big corporate businesses that are there, they're not going to be coming to us for ARPA money, I don't think. So that leaves our small businesses. There's just, there's not that many of them at the mall. There's a couple more out in, the reaches of the city. We've already, you already told us about 104. I wonder about the other restaurant and the ice cream place and, the jewelry, no, the jewelry store isn't even there anymore. There just aren't that many of them. So that's why I'm torn, is that I just don't have a sense of what the universe of potential customers is out there, if you see what I mean. So.
And to your point, there were only 2 businesses that contacted me that decided not to go forward, and they were small businesses. And honestly, the one I can't even remember the name of.
All right, well,
they have been small businesses. We haven't heard anything from the large players, and nor do I think we will. And we've had some businesses, I found out Finn Peaks decided to pack up and move along. And that was just a business decision, not COVID related. So you're correct. We don't have a lot of small businesses. I mean, currently the policy is we help first come, first serve. That's what we've been doing to this point. And I don't think there's anything wrong with continuing with that. But when we had to, for the federal government, set dollar amounts, that kind of changes that equation. And it's just appropriate to check back in with you and make sure we're doing it right.
Deputy Mayor French, then Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you, Mr. I think this is one of those cases, and thank you very much, Mr. I think this is one of those cases, I think we're potentially overthinking this a little bit. I think, and 2, it's one of those things where we're not looking for action right now. We can go away, digest some of these things. In my way of thinking, I'm trying to channel you, Mr. Furtani, and as well as you, Mr. Goldman, in your professorial way of thinking about the topic. I'm looking at there are the people that chose, apparently 2 businesses that chose not to apply because the paperwork was too onerous, or for other reasons, potentially too. We don't necessarily know that. And then the range of applications and awards have been between, I believe 10,000 was the low, and this would be the highest. And so if we're looking at a situation here that we have basically 2.5 more years of potential eligibility for some of these businesses, right now I'm feeling comfortable not putting a cap on this or putting a specific amount, because I think we're overthinking it. And I think that could potentially, I think I've talked myself out of the thinking that it might dissuade somebody from applying, because if it's advantageous for somebody to apply at the 10,000 level, then you got the whole range that it makes sense. Maybe below that, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think any of us is going to be looking at capping it at $5,000 or anything else. That I don't think that would be prudent. So my way of thinking is I would suggest that we take, if there are any other questions of Mr. Hill, we can certainly ask them, but I'd suggest we think on this and come back and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. And in the same vein, information to come back with, you were saying that, I think it was the cryogenics had an ask and they haven't quite met it yet. It would be useful to know where they ended up so that if we determine to do a cap, we don't end up lower than that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Lebo.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Just City Administrator Hill, just to clarify, these funds are to be spent for what kinds of things? My understanding was it was for lost revenue over a period of time, or is it for other elements?
It's lost revenue, PPE, which I think most everybody is beyond, because it could cover. So you compare to 2019 for lost revenue.
Yeah.
Going forward, if you're still purchasing PPE, and because this is
but
personal.
No, I understand what PPE is, but I mean, are people these days purchasing PPE due to COVID. And that's what it's for, right?
It is. I think maybe some restaurants and personal and services like that still are purchasing more than they have in the past. Any expense related to COVID is eligible. So anything that you did to your business, if you remodeled your business for social distancing within your business would qualify. So anything related to responding to COVID potentially qualifies under the federal law. And that's where you get into, does it really qualify? Is this something that, you know?
So, okay, so it's related to COVID, but in terms of lost revenue, is it related to particular years or year period?
So currently you compare 2019 and then after March 3rd, roughly 2021, from that day forward, if you have lost revenue, and I think still businesses are still seeing lost revenue related to COVID, especially in the service industry. A lot of restaurants, things you go to aren't nearly as packed as they used to be. So during this period, I believe, and I'll have the city attorney correct me, through 2024, these are still on the table as qualifying expenses under the federal rule.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, council, just have lots of questions on this, so we're just gonna move forward and bring it back again, I would say.
Yeah, tonight was information only.
Okay.
We'll go from here.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for allowing me to say a few things, council. I'm good up there. Okay, on with that, we have any other business this evening? Seeing none, I'll tell you, I'm in a pretty good mood because I thought it was really 9:30 because I forgot our clock was off. So it's only 8:30, folks, so. And I promised the staff that we could play a joke on Lee and stay as late as we wanted just to make her stay late, but I think she already left, so that's not gonna work. Okay, with that, council member reports. Deputy Mayor French.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see. We won't talk about budget and finance, just a reminder that we do have budget and finance coming up next week. And I did attend the SCA pick. Councilmember Reports was there as well. Last night, it was a sad night to a certain degree because it was Deanna Dawson's last night. And so we'll missing her as well as her young son, George, who put on a real display last night, which was kind of fun. There, I did get the pleasure of speaking with her again today at the deputy mayor's meeting, which was a very robust conversation amongst about 6 of us. And Deanna was there, so we had a chance. Her last day, I believe, is tomorrow, and before she heads to her new role. Just a couple of thoughts about the pick, if I can find my notes here. One of the things that came up is that Conservation Futures is coming up for renewal. The county did their same tactic that they always do, unfortunately, and there were some complaints levied by a number of cities about this, where they kind of sprung it on everybody, even though some of those cities are going to be having ballot measures as well. But of course, this Conservation Futures is something that we benefited from as a community, and it's a very, very, very important program. And because of inflationary pressures and because of several other factors, the funds have basically, things have dropped off. So they're looking for, in effect, a doubling of the rate. And if I recall the math off the top of my head, it would be close to, over the period of the levy, would raise about just over $500 million for Conservation Futures, which I think is an outstanding number. If I recall correctly, and Councilmember Reports may remember the specific numbers, for a median household in King County at the $800,000 level, it was an additional $27 a year with this new it's a renewal basically of the levy. So I think that it's an important consideration for people to think about. There was a discussion about tax fatigue, that there are a lot of things coming up, and the Conservation Futures question, the county tends to bring things kind of at the last minute and put it in the mix and say, here it's coming. And then, and as there's no good timing for levies, I think, honestly, and I think some cities were surprised by this particular timing as well, because several of them have ballot measures that are coming up here. And that was all I had really from the SEA pick. There was conversations about the question about the water quality issues related to wastewater, a bunch of other kinds of topical things, and I can send you the information rather than blather on about it. But the consensus really is that the cities are fully supportive of making sure that these water quality issues are taken care of, but making sure that the new regulations don't destroy city budgets in the process, because some of these things are incredibly expensive. As you may recall, the Department of Ecology's potential new regulations were going to hit all of us pretty hard if they went into effect relative to wastewater. One last note relative to scheduling. I sent out a note today about trying to do a weekend mini retreat on traffic calming and speed limits. And I have had a request from the administration that we do that in an evenings, because we will be doing a budgetary retreat, and I completely neglected to think about that. I want to be respectful of staff's time on weekends, and so they have plenty of time to spend with their families. So I'll be sending out some potential dates to you all to consider. The date of the 16th, I believe it was, of July is now off the table, Saturday, and I'll try to find an evening that would make sense for us to get together for slightly extended CAL, not real long. I don't believe 90 minutes is going to be enough for us to cover the topics, or we might do it over a period of 2 meetings. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for reminding me of the budgetary retreat. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, Councilmember Bodie.
I would just add a few points to the Sound Cities PIC meeting. First of all, Deanna is wonderful, and I haven't experienced her leadership for very long, but I can tell she's really exceptional, and she's going to be the new CEO of the Association of Washington Cities. So she'll still be kind of with us shepherding things through. So that's kind of the good news. The water quality plan, some of the issues are complicated about, whether these are really the kinds of issues that cities should be responsible for paying for, especially for issues like nitrogen. And this water quality plan is going to be a 40-year plan. So I don't think we have anything shaped up yet, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to pay attention to down the road because of the fiscal and environmental implications. On the Conservation Futures Levy, I would just add that cities were concerned about the economy also, and not just tax fatigue in general, but coming at this very volatile time when a lot of people are experiencing economic hardship, recognizing that there's never a good time for a levy lift decision. But basically the doubling means it would go from about $30 or $27 for the average household to $60. So it really is a substantial change. Some of the cities, more than one, mentioned, what about maintenance of the existing conservation lands and the issue of homelessness and public safety and so forth? So how are funds going? Are we just going to acquire new properties or new development rights? Because that's part of what can be acquired with this is development rights. And so how are we going to balance? And this is an issue, of course, as we expand our park system on a smaller level, we grapple with as well. But there were no real clear answers, and it sounds like it's going to be hustled out to be on the out for voters fairly soon without much time for discussion. So anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you, Councilmember Riddle.
Thank you. I've had attended 3 different groups. Last week attended Healthier Here, and other than standard governing board business, we had a presentation for the Nonprofit Finance Fund, which was just something new for me. It's a they finance nonprofits as well as provide funding counseling to shore up the funding strategies of nonprofits. And so that was just an interesting piece that I learned. And then attended the, I'm going to get over here, Washington Community Forestry Council earlier this week, where we were lucky to have Commissioner Franz available for a little over an hour and had some amazing discussions with her about her vision, specifically towards urban forestry, which of course we've all talked about is so important to us here in Lake Forest Park. And so definitely have an alignment of our goals and her goals. And so I really see a lot of great things happening in this next couple of years. The program that actually, provides the Tree City USA work for us, or assignment for us, I can't remember the word. And they provide technical assistance. They can come out and train folks on proper pruning methods, and they have a new GIS person who's almost full-time dedicated to the urban forestry program. So there's a lot going on there that's going to create a kind of a canopy coverage across the state and create a database of trees as much as they can across the state and start building a baseline more so across the whole state rather than individual cities. So it's really interesting to see where they're going with this program, and that they have the funding and now to have staff to support it. So that was really thrilling for me. It means great work in the urban forestry world coming up here in the next few years. And lastly, we did have the North King County Coalition on Homelessness earlier today. Had a download of some things from the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, one of which was talking about their budget. So they do have an internally approved budget that's gone off to Seattle and King County. And so they're kind of wanting to see people advocate for their requested budget and hope to have no budget cuts when it gets finally approved. They've looked at allocating funding from everything from safe parking spaces for folks in RVs to shelters to supportive housing. So they have a kind of a menu of items that they've provided is what they would like to do with that budget. And then lastly, they did have a conversation about the proposed interlocal agreement that would apply to kind of the North King County cities. And it was more of an introduction today. I don't have really anything to provide for that, but it is current ongoing discussion, and the East Side cities, I believe, are going through a very similar discussion, which the general proposal is a pooling of money and then managed by the Regional Homelessness Authority. So individual service providers don't have to create a report for how they utilize every city's funds. They can just create a single report that would apply to the regional funding allocation. So it frees up some time for the individual human services groups, but there's other implications obviously as well. So that is in motion. So I think that's the biggest piece of what I have at this time. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Goldman.
Yes, so I attended the tree board meeting last week and some updates from them. We're moving forward with the city hiring a contractor to perform the tree inventory. So that'll be moving forward. Is that my microphone or someone else is giving feedback? Also, it's belated, but we are planning an Arbor Day tree planting event. We're thinking the most likely location will be the bus stop over there, the one on southbound Bothell Way, kind of near where the Bank of America is. Also, the tree board is making progress. They're mostly finished writing a welcome letter for new homeowners, people that are moving into the city, just kind of informing them, hey, welcome to Lake Forest Park. Here's some information about trees and the tree code so that people are well informed. And lastly, I think something I just want to put on our radar. A member of the public mentioned that Sound Transit has a plan in terms of the BRT line and what impacts it might have on the city. And as it pertains to trees, and I hope this is a worst case scenario, but they're saying in Lake Forest Park, they may need to remove or alter over 500 shrubs and over 400 trees, which seems like a huge amount. So I think this is something that the city is going to want to pay some close attention to and work with Sound Transit to try to mitigate that level of tree damage. But I think that's it from the tree board.
Yes, Councilmember Cassover.
Thank you very much. I chaired the Seashore meeting on this last Friday, and Councilmember Goldman was also in attendance, and also Administrator Hill, and also Public Works Director Jeff Perigo. Thank you. It's late. So we had a presentation from King County Metro, and there are two things they talked about. One is that they are currently involved in phase one of assessing the changes that King County Metro will need to make as the Linwood Link, the light rail, comes online up through Shoreline and into Linwood. So they are right now engaging with different public groups, and I believe that our Public Works Director is one of the groups, is in one of those groups that they're meeting with. And then this fall, they will actually come forward with some concepts for how they will change their routes to actually connect with the Linwood Link. And then early next year, they will do sort of fine tuning of that. So that's something that I think we all should pay attention to. We had some opportunity to ask questions, and I particularly asked about what are they looking at, or that we as a city will want to know what they're thinking about as far as Ballinger Way leading to the 185th Street station, as that is likely to be a station that members of our community who live on the western side of our city are likely to use more than the 145th Street station. So, or more than, taking Bottle Way down and along 145th. So anyway, look forward to that. And I might ask the city administration if it might be good for us to have a presentation from King County Metro at some point, as they get further along with this, so that we as a council are fully informed. The other discussion that we had with the presentation that King County Metro made was the fact that they are taking a good look at the E line, which is their bus rapid transit on Aurora Avenue. They're wanting to make some really big improvements there. It's that whole corridor is fraught with issues of many kinds, and they're looking at all of them. So they have some consultants working on that. There's crime issues, there's traffic issues, there's safety. Where should the stops really be? Should they be in the center of the road? Should they be on the sides of the road? So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things there. I mean, it doesn't really affect us in Lake Forest Park quite so much, but it's interesting to see what happens. But the interesting thing about that E line, they have, a 4-minute headway with those buses. It is the busiest line in all of King County Metro. It carries more passengers per day than any other line. So that was interesting to me. I didn't know that. Then we had sort of a round table of everybody who was there at the meeting, talking about what their sort of major policy priorities are for the next year when it comes to transportation. So we heard from the cities. I presented for the city of Lake Forest Park, talking about the fact that we are very concerned with traffic calming, with cut through traffic, with pedestrian safety, bike safety. And but then we got to the some of the agencies. So it was very interesting that we had somebody from the Seattle Department of Transportation there. And I'm very curious about what they're thinking about with 145th Street. But unfortunately, this gentleman did not have very much information on that. He's more focused on how we move commercial and industrial traffic through the city of Seattle, because of course that's a very important thing with the port and everything else, right? So anyway, didn't get far with that. But then we had Washington State Department of Transportation, so I was all ready for them. They're working on Move Ahead Washington, which is the big tranche of money that the state legislature has put is putting forward now for transportation issues. They said that they have a report due to the legislature in December for how they're planning to use that money. That one of the things that they are going to focus on is preservation and maintenance. And immediately to my mind came 104 because it's in a terrible state.
Mine is 104, 103rd.
I mean, I don't know how often you guys drive Ballinger Way, but it's like driving cross country there. You're bouncing around all over the place. So, so I'm hoping they're going to get to that. And I did make a point of saying that I want them to look at it. But they also made the point that Complete Streets is a piece of the Move Ahead Washington, so that every project that is new after July 1st of this year has to have a Complete Streets component to it. And if for those of you who are not familiar yet with the Complete Streets regulations, that means it has to have sidewalks and bicycle infrastructure. So, you know, I'm looking forward to that. Right here in Lake Forest Park, we'll see what they do with our state highways. But of course, fish barriers and I-5 preservation from the Ship Canal to Northgate is another really big issue that they're working on. So anyway, it was, oh, and that construction, by the way, that I-5 preservation, I think is going to start next year, 2023. So have fun out there on the freeways, guys. But anyway, it was an interesting opportunity to really hear from WashDOT, and I hope that we will, you know, maybe get some more information from the Seattle Department of Transportation as time goes on, because I think, in my mind, one of the real questions about how well the bus rapid transit is going to work is how well 145th Street works. There are sections of that road that I don't see how they get to widen them and have bus lanes, you know, so we'll just see how they work that. But anyway, it was an interesting meeting, but that's the only one I've had since the last time we met. So that's that for me.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I guess for mayor's report. Just a couple things. I know you all get emails and you get letters, and there's a lot of stuff going on Lake Forest Park. Just remember that by the time you're getting your email, it's already been through a lot of people, and a lot of stuff gets done. So take your time. I can tell you a couple of times this week, the best thing to do is go and take a look at it in your own eyes and see reality. And that is the truth. And it's not anything, it's pretty amazing, but just trust me, just go take a look, because, and don't ever answer anything. Talk to Jeff, talk to Phil. We've been talking to everybody for quite a bit when they get to your letters. So just trust the fact that the city is on top of most of that stuff, all of it. Number two, just to cheer you up, I know my gas price has gone up 13 cents a gallon today. So look for $6 to $6.25 tomorrow. Just so when you think you fill your tank, when I fill my tanks, it's $60,000 now.
Oh.
Yeah, tanker loads, like, because I can, that's not gonna be fun. And another thing, Chief, thank you very much, because I don't hear it as much here, but catalytic converter thefts are not reported at all. It's 100, I would say it's probably 50% higher than you see on the news. I get 20 calls a week now for catalytic converter, and now we got the new one. They're starting to drill and cut gas lines. So if you go out to your car and you smell a bunch of gas, you might think about it before you jump in it, because they probably drilled a hole in your gas tank or cut your fill tank. That's getting real popular. We're seeing that quite a bit. Stealing the gas, because they're getting, you know, if you have a Ford truck, it's $150 now. So it's really a bummer. Chief, we were very lucky. I'm very proud of the police department. I'm always running into them and talking to them, and put my seatbelt on, because I even put it on now when I go from Albertsons to home, which I never used to, but you never know.
That's just when you walk.
But I'm going to give you all the advice, and I think you guys just pass this on. If you're leaving town for a while, put as much junk as you can underneath your car to make it hard for them to crawl under it. If you have a higher car, make sure you put more. But to be honest, I would throw all your dog poop for a month underneath your car so they have something to roll into. But really, they're thefts of convenience. So you really need to just throw some wood under there, but they have to get underneath it to cut the converter off. They have to get underneath to pop your tank. And I'm just bringing it up because I'm having so many customers that it's happening to, and it's just a drag. And so that's just a little automotive reality there for you. So With that, no, but just remember, the city's on top of things. We got a lot going on. Westbound on 522 will be closed this weekend for a few days. They're gonna be doing the boring for the Sound Transit projects. And then kind of keep an idea because Corey's got everything coming back. Battle of the Bands is coming and Picnic in the Park and all that. So it's getting exciting. Things are going on. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, yes.
I wanted to thank my two colleagues here. There was a bit of a milestone. My colleagues here joined me in signing a letter to the Shoreline City Council regarding speed limits in the city of Shoreline and specifically 35th Avenue. And this weekend, they had taken our recommendation earlier in the year, and the lower speed limit of 30 miles an hour went into effect right above Lake Forest Park on 35th. So be careful. Don't go tearing down there. Yeah, anyway, thank you both for joining me in that because it was effective.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you to our Public Works Department. I'm aware of 2 specific projects where they've done a really great professional diplomatic job and responded to, substantial community input that spread our way, or at least my way. And so I just want to commend them for how professional, how diplomatic, how much they listen, and the fact that they're responsive. So that is really, to me, a great commendation for our city overall. And then I will just say one other thing. I always say this to our chief. Whenever I read the city administrator's report and I see the things that our police department are responding to, again, to me, if you look back 3 years versus this, things have really escalated. There's a lot more difficult situations they're dealing with. So thank you. It hasn't abated, I notice. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay. Phil, it looks like you have like 3 or 4 city administrators reports this evening. So
It's almost 10 o'clock, Mayor.
I know, I was looking at that. We might be out of time for that executive session. I can tell you that much. So
Yeah, I have nothing additional to add other than we helped Lee with her, last reporting for the Well City Award. I think you saw that between the 2 city teams, we had about, over 4 million steps in the month of May. And this rain's not helping those of us who biked, but we still got almost 200 miles in for the month of May. So we're going to keep doing it, especially at the price of gas. I'm happy to ride my bike to work.
And I'm not, I just one last thing. I won't bring it up because we're going to budget season, but I can guarantee our fuel bill for the police department's probably doubled or tripled. We'll be discussing that pretty soon, I'm pretty sure. So, okay. Yeah.
The last city administrators report, so we went really fast, or council really fast. I wanted to point out that the department's going paperless, which is a really big thing, especially for climate change and going in that vein. And it's a big haul, but we're pushing through pretty good. So it's a really good thing. I just wanted to make sure council is fully aware of what we're doing there.
Pretty amazing. The city went paperless about 9 years ago, and I really haven't seen much happen, but we'll see how that goes for you. I know the tickets aren't paper anymore. I know that, so that's all good. Okay, with that, we are going to go to executive session then. I guess, are we going down to the room downstairs? Okay, so let's head on down. How long do we need, Kim? 20 minutes, okay. It's 10 o'clock, 10:20. We are not making any decisions, right? We just need to come back and finish the meeting. Okay, good. So that's what we're doing. So let's head down there real quick. No. Okay, we'll see you 2 downstairs.
See you in the new Zoom. the power cord yet. I don't know. Maybe I'll test it for you. See if you got it dead.
I think so.
Right.
Righty.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. Is anybody else okay with that? Seeing no arguments, we will adjourn at this time. Thank you, council. Have a great night. Stay dry and safe. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Stay safe.
Take care.